got a bed looking like Grey Goose. Lit up like a crystal ball, that's cool, baby, so is you. That's how I roll. If I'm shining, everybody gonna shine.
Had to roll the windows up. Hey everybody, this is Jazz of Queen Melanin, Queen_Melanin_millennial. I'm gonna put my seatbelt on because we're going for a drive. This is gonna be Jazzy Car Chronicles. I'm sorry. So I decided that I am going to talk about my story, my journey of self-love, self-growth, self-betterment, self-awareness, self-reflection, spending time with self, anything revolving self that you can think of. I've been doing it. So first I want to start off by saying that self-love is probably the best thing you can ever practice. And when I say self-love, a lot of people may think, because I was one of these people, so I don't know if you guys were one of these people, but you may feel like self-love, I love myself, because that's what I thought when people were like, oh, you need to practice self-love. And I'm like, I do love myself. What do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? So one of the things that I realized as I discovered or sought out to discover what it meant to practice self-love, I discovered that self-love is when you tend to your own needs, especially before others. We have a tendency to live in a society where we're taught not to offend other people and, you know, think about others. And I've been a person who has always held that very dearly. And so in my attempt to care about others, I realized that I was not caring about myself as much as I should have. And as I began to discover what self-love was, that's when I realized that I wasn't. Really, anytime that you put someone else's needs before your own, especially on a regular basis, primarily in like a relationship, because for me, I feel like that was one of my greatest downfalls, was that I gave too much of myself in a relationship and didn't pour back into me. And while you can give yourself, you definitely want to be in a person who is also giving their self in the same magnitude, because if they're not, then they are literally taking the love from you and still loving their self at the same time. So it's not a cycle of just like it should be a constant, not a constant. Of course there'll be ups and downs where there'll be times when one person will have to take on more than the other, but if it's a continuous thing, then that is practicing not putting yourself first, which is an example of not practicing self-love. But another way that I realized that I wasn't practicing self-love was that I spent too much time focusing on getting into a relationship instead of spending time focusing on just me. Like, as far as me was concerned, I just went to work. I had a job, of course. I went to school. I went to Morgan, yay Bears. And after that, I really just I didn't really feed myself anything of substance, I would say. I was a big go outer, turn up type of person. Not every day, but enough to the fact that I wasn't allowing myself to grow. You know what I mean? And I do think that in your young adult years, you do need to get that out of your system, where you just mindlessly do shit and just have fun and just be free. But at a certain point, it's a time to cut that out, because I mean, yeah, having fun is nice, but what else are we doing, right? So for my journey of self-love, I really took the time out to really think about, I needed to heal. That was number one. I needed to heal from all of my past hurts and traumas, and specifically childhood and relationship. I'm sorry, there's like a glare right now, but it should go away in a second. Let me see. Because I know I have to. By the way, side note, I got a real ghetto hookup right now because I just got this phone. I don't have a thing to hook up in my car to hold my phone. And so I did buy a little kind of like stand from Five and Below well before quarantine. And I bought the whole thing out the house. It's sitting up in my dashboard right now. And it's holding my phone. It's holding my phone. But it's like positioned in a way that it shouldn't fall. So hopefully. But anyway, I really just took the time out to think about, you know, how I have handled or how I have grown to cope with specifically a lot of major losses that I've experienced within my life. When I was 9 years old, my mother died in a house fire. And then I was raised by my grandfather and my step-grandmother with joint custody amongst my maternal grandmother and my paternal grandmother. So my mom's mom and my father's mom. But I primarily lived with my grandfather, my mother's father, and my step-grandmother. And so once I was 16, my grandfather passed away when I was in the 11th grade from pancreatic cancer. And then I moved with my grandmother. And it was a completely different, you know, switching dynamic. My grandfather was a little bit more financially stable than my grandmother. My grandmother also was a single woman. She didn't have, you know, two incomes. It was just her. Oh no, hold on. We can fix it. We can fix it. She didn't have two incomes in her home. But throughout my entire teenage years after living with her from 16 on up to my adult life, I've always kind of held some type of animosity towards my grandmother, I'll say, because I felt like she didn't, more than anything, I was used to how my grandfather raised me. And not to say that how she raised me was bad. There were definitely things that I wouldn't have done if I were her. But, you know, we are all people. And we only do things the best way we know how. And it took me up until very recently to be able to understand my grandmother and respect her for the decisions that she made and understand why she made them. When I was younger, I couldn't see it. Also, I compared myself a lot to other people and their experiences. And something that I really had to teach myself, that my life is not anybody else's life. My life is my life. And whatever is for me, when it's for me, it will come to me. And if it doesn't, then it wasn't meant for me. Maybe what's meant for me is bigger than that. You know what I mean? And so sometimes people get a lot early and then lose it, and I definitely have been one to experience that in several different ways, especially with relationships. But sometimes the fortune comes in the beginning, and then you deal with loss, and then you learn how to reclimb again. Sometimes you start out with nothing, and then you learn how to climb again. But you always have to make sure that you don't beat yourself up for the situations that you have been going through, and really just let go of that pain. Because when you hold that pain, you really begin to create a lot of negative energy within you, and you maybe don't even realize it. And a squeegee boy is about to come up and try to clean my window, but I don't need it. I don't know, thanks. I'm good. He did it anyway. But thank you. I feel bad because I don't have any money, but he just sprayed my car. But and then he looked at me like, and I was like, I told you no. But anyway, side note. So I'm sorry, I get distracted easily. But what was I saying again? What was I saying? When we hold on to that pain from our experiences that hurt us or traumatized us, we really do ourselves a disservice. Because we kind of go in protective mode, which is good, but sometimes it's not good because you really have to let it go. You can't hold on to it. You learn from what you learn from it, but you don't harbor the anger and the hurt and the pain, because it blocks you from finding happiness in all arenas of life, not just those ways. And sometimes we think that, oh, I done dealt with this guy that treated me like crap, so now I don't want to be in no more relationships. While you do definitely have that right, at a certain point, when you get old, you might wish that you didn't operate that way. But depending on the person, you might be okay with it. But you just really want to heal, because your energy can be felt through other people. So when you constantly are holding on to that anger, or you're keeping yourself in a certain vibrational level, you're going to attract those type of people. And so while you're trying to find a new mate and you like, no, I don't want nobody like what I had last time, and you giving off this negative energy, you're going to attract a negative energy, which is something I had to learn, because boy, I definitely have attracted some negative energy. And I don't even think it was so much that I was necessarily operating in a negative light, but I was operating in a state of almost, I would say, desperation, in a sense where I wanted someone. And for me, my first serious relationship, my significant other we didn't break up, so it was like a never ending, like, I want it back. He actually passed away. He was murdered. And so that's something that I realized that I never freaking dealt with. I was hurt. I was distraught. The person who I thought that I was gonna probably have kids with, and I had been with for 3 years out of high school, and you're still like in that phase where you just like, this is gonna work, this is it, like, even though it may not. But most people say you don't never end up with the person you graduated from high school with. But we get fed this like tale, I'll say, that it's like a happily ever after. We see so many movies where people graduate from high school with their boyfriends and things like that, and you think it's forever. And even though I didn't break up with him, he passed away. For all of that time that we were together, in my mind, this was the man I was going to marry. This was the man that I was going to have kids with. And I was completely smitten, right? And we definitely had ups and downs, and we had bad times. And I feel like I did myself a disservice because I continued to chase that. That's what I wanted. I wanted someone that reminded me of him, that acted like him, we had similar interactions like him. And that does not make a person the same person. People have similarities. That's always been a thing. People always have had similarities. But I think that me not healing from the fact of him being gone, and me constantly wanting that same thing again, sent me in a state of first of all, initially depression that I ignored. Or not even, I won't even say ignored, maybe a state of depression that I didn't realize that I was in, because I was always in this kind of like get back up and keep on going type of thing that I do. I don't know why I do it, but when I went to therapy a few years ago, my therapist told me that I run from grief. And so that was another, in a part of my healing journey, I went to therapy. So really the journey started in 2018. I always say that it started after my breakup, but I think that, damn. Sorry guys, almost ran a stop sign. But I think that my journey really began when I started to take the initial steps to figure out what was going on with my life. When I felt like I just had no clue and I needed help. And it wasn't the type of help that anybody I knew could answer. It just felt like it needed to be deeper than that. And because, yeah, you talk to people about the things that you've been through, and of course everybody holds some level of bias. Some people are just like more coddling, like, oh yeah, no, you've been through that, and bop bop bop, and I understand why you do that. But just because you understand why you do something doesn't mean that it's okay for you to do it. You know what I mean? So we come up with our own personal coping mechanisms where we do things that aren't fucking healthy, period. And a lot of other people do it too. So then we feel like it's okay because we're all doing it, so it must be all right. But in actuality, we're putting ourselves in a place where it makes it harder for us to create healthy relationships. And so it's important for all of us, especially as women, to deal with that hurt, deal with that pain, grow, because ultimately it has an impact on what we accept. It has an impact on the decisions that we make. And we want to keep ourselves at a higher standard, because I'm definitely a believer that the reason why a lot of us women go through the things that we go through, it's because of what we have allowed from men. And so at this point, most men only view us in a certain light because so many of us have lowered our standards to the point where what do they need? What do we need? What do we need they feel like, what I need to operate off these standards for if I can find a girl that's going to give me what I want ASAP. Now, at a certain point, they will realize that just because these girls give them what they want ASAP doesn't always mean that they are the girl that they should be dealing with. That's how you got a lot of guys that can't stand their baby mothers and swear they crazy and all of that shit. But you didn't fully think it through, and these are the consequences for your actions. But not to hold anything against anybody, because I've definitely made decisions that I did not think through, and I've definitely dealt with consequences for my actions. But like I was saying, once we get to a point where we love ourselves so unconditionally that it doesn't even matter if we have a man in our life or not, these men will rise to our occasion. I mean, is it occasion? These men will rise. We are the queens. And some of these kings forgot or lost their crowns, or they don't know they have them, and vice versa. We have too. And once we really find out or redetermine our self-worth, then we'll be unstoppable. I've always been a firm believer that it's not just men, it's not just women, it's both of us. All of us come with our own set of baggages that we have not dealt with properly, and we create situations that are hard to handle, to be completely honest, and most of us don't know how to handle it. And I won't even say that I still do know how to handle it, but you know what I'm doing? For the first time in my life, I am not worried about a man. I feel like I spent so much time focused on a man that I owe it to myself to really focus on me. And that's what I've been doing. I done came up with so many different business ideas that I want to get started on. I've been focused. Like, I launched this t-shirt line, jcheretees.com, and I started painting. I'm an artist now. The number one thing I always wanted to do, I'm doing it. So I'm pumped. And as I continue to pour into myself, I already know great things will come. As I continue to pour into myself, great things will come. So I really feel like my t-shirts are really just like affirmations to really boost confidence and keep you aware of your power. And not to say that anybody's going to forget their power, but we're making a statement for other people to see too. This is who I am. I know who I am. I love who I am. You accept who I am. I want you to see who I am on my shirt. This is who I am. This is what I represent. This is how I feel about myself. Scare away those men that don't need to be coming near you. That's fine. Create a dialogue. That's cool. That's what the shirts are for. So anyway, this was just a little quick vid. I only talked about self. I feel like I touched on all of it, but there will be more videos about me and my journey of self. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is gonna probably go on YouTube and IGTV. I don't even know. This is my first time doing it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you want to hear about, what you want to talk about, and we can get this dialogue started, ladies, because we are in a journey of self-growth, self-awareness, self-betterment, self-reflection. We all about ourselves, especially during this quarantine. And I am staying away from people, even though you see me driving. I like to go for drives, and this is my place that brings me comfort. So I felt like this would be the perfect place for you guys to come along and talk with me. Have a good day. Peace, love, and light. And again, this is at Queen Melanin Millennial. Check me out on jaycherietees.com and my Etsy shop, which is etsy.com/shop/jaycherie creations. Talk to you soon.